how has he played so many games for the Socceroos?
We have a fantastic defensive setup, maybe our best since 2006.
To be honest, this could be the biggest decision that he has to make, and if he gets it wrong, it could crumble.
He should have 10 more Socceroos caps.
If the Jets aren't represented in this March window, there is something wrong.
But he's making the case, and he never let Australia down when he's played either.
Yeah, I think if he was called right now, he would commit to playing for Australia.
In 4 months, the Socceroos will head to the World Cup for the biggest show on earth, and it's not too early to get into the debate about who might be in Tony Popovic's 26-man squad. Hello and welcome to Football 360's first ever live in-studio vodcast. My name is David Weiner, and I'm joined today by a great panel to have this conversation with the Socceroos World Cup watch. Erik, Paartalu, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Great to see you. And a man I reckon, if we let him speak for the next 24 hours on it, he might. Daniel Garb, good to see you.
Just try shutting me up when it comes to the Socceroos in the World Cup. Looking forward to it, mate. Thanks for having me.
It's fantastic. It's great. We've got a month to go or so until the Socceroos play 2 friendlies, a farewell FIFA series against Cameroon and Curaçao. But in the meantime, there's a lot to watch in terms of the Australians abroad, the Australians in the A-League, and also some youngsters as well. So we'll get stuck into that over the next little while, position by position. But first, a message from our sponsors, Streamgate. Streamgate partners with Australian businesses of all sizes to deliver high-quality event streaming that brings in-person and online audiences together. They make it easy for everyone to take part through smooth live video, interactive Q&A, and real-time chat. Learn more at streamgate.co. That's streamgate.co. Great to have them on board. Boys, just a general health check before we start. Vibe around the Socceroos. We're recording this fresh off a Mohamed Toure hat-trick for Norwich. Erik, what's your feel around the health check and status of the squad now?
Yeah, it's exciting. We need attacking options, and that was one of the question marks, I think, for Mo Toure. If he made the move, could he handle it? Could he step up? And in the space of a game or two, you're like, maybe he can go to another level. So that's really healthy from a Socceroos point of view. We still have a few players that are, have an injury cloud over them, and I think that's worrying Tony Popovic, especially for this March camp where you'd expect him to pick his best team. But I don't know, Garby. It's exciting times because now it's time to press the accelerator if you're a player.
The Toure hat-trick's massive. Look, it wasn't against the strongest opposition. Let's always be mindful of how many teams there are in the championship, and there are different tiers of quality. So let's taper it a bit. Don't go out expecting Mo Toure to score a double every single week because you're going to play teams near the top, and that's going to be close to Premier League quality, and it's going to be different for him. But what a way to start. To get the move there, to score 4 goals in just over a game after coming off the bench is great for his confidence and for our confidence. And Riley McGree scoring on the weekend as well. Borough are at the top, and he is still a key player for them. The biggest question mark always, and it was the same at the last World Cup when we got through it, is who is going to provide those goals in tough situations. Now, no one's saying Mo Toure is going to go to the World Cup and score 3 goals, but it gives us more belief that we've got someone who can possibly do that and lead the line. So it's been a massive weekend in that sense. There's talent coming through. There's a lot of question marks in terms of rawness and experience and that, but the talent is coming through, and it's getting us excited as we get closer.
It absolutely is. Now we're going to rip in position by position. So the obvious place to start is at the back, which is probably the quickest discussion, but I think there's 2 layers to this one. The first is who is the number 1, which is going to be an ongoing debate going towards the tournament, and who gets the backup spot as well. So, Garb, I'll start with you because when we launched on Football 360, you actually stuck the crystal ball out, put your neck on the chopping block, and predicted your first 11 for the first game, and you had Paul Izzo in goal at the time. Has your mind changed since then?
It has, because Matt Ryan's got into the Levante team and he's playing ever so well. So things have changed. But at the time, you couldn't really argue with it. And I don't think it's a guarantee that Ryan starts because you look back at the way Popper's managed his teams. He's not a chopper and a changer. He's got someone. He is of the mentality that it's his position to lose. It's different with international football, of course, and when you've got someone of Matt Ryan's experience, still technically the captain, in a squad that is a bit light on for experience, especially at World Cups, it probably gives him the edge. But Izzo is a fantastic shot stopper who's done nothing wrong. And there'll be a part of Popper thinking, well, why would I change? I'd have it 64 in Matty Ryan's advantage because of his runs on the board. But it's going to be an interesting one, and I don't think it's a guarantee, but I would say it's more than likely. The third spot, I think, still goes to Patrick Beach, just because when you've got 2 guarantees, it's more often than not you take someone who's for the future, a youngster coming through. I know Joe Gauchi's pretty young as well, but Beach is doing it sort of week in, week out. Gauchi's had to bide his time a little bit over there in the UK and has had some moves. So I think that'll be the way of it. But we're in a great position where, we've got a backup there. He's in a strong position. But I think Matt Ryan will be the number one keeper still.
We've made the assumption that it is Ryan and Izzo locked in at 1 or 2. Do you agree with that as well?
I don't. Just from what I've seen recently from Joe Gauchi playing
Port Vale.
For Port Vale. And I think that he comes into that conversation who's going to be the next Socceroos goalkeeper. I'm not sure where Tony Popovic's head is at with long-term plans. That's why Matty Ryan got to 100 caps, and then you saw that experiment come in because he's not going to go and play 200 games for the country. I can still see Matty Ryan hanging around. He's only 33, 34 in a couple of weeks. I think he could go to another World Cup after this. And knowing Matty Ryan, when I used to play against him when I was younger, I think that he has that mentality that he'll want to continue. However, you've got to look towards the future. I don't know if he goes and picks a Patrick Beach on his form this season. I think he's been up and down in Melbourne City from what we've seen. But the biggest question mark for any goalkeeper is that word, pressure. Can you handle that with 60,000 people? Who's doing it week in, week out? It's Matty Ryan and it's Joe Gauchi at the moment. I want to throw in a little spanner that maybe Andrew Redmayne has a case. And he's still playing reasonably well for the Mariners.
Are we back in Qatar 2022?
We are.
For real? Are we gone back into time war?
I think that, your third keeper you take for experience, but I'd love to see it because I don't think he's put a foot wrong. Great relationship with Matty Ryan. Keep the camp calm. I don't think there's a reason why Andrew Redmayne hasn't got a shot.
Wouldn't let anyone down.
No.
Fit into the team. The team is an inexperienced squad when you look at it. We'll go through that in the next little while. So there you go. So we've actually solved nothing. We're 5 minutes in, and we've got nothing. Matty Ryan.
Yeah, but we've got to mention his form, though. It has been...
Matty Ryan or Redmayne?
Matty Ryan. Really impressive in recent times. And that has been big because as well as Izzo was playing, he still didn't have that World Cup experience. Now our captain is back. That was another talking point. Well, hang on. What if your captain's on the bench? Do you change it leading into the tournament? Does someone else like an Irvine get the armband permanently? Does Matty Ryan say, well, hang on, if I'm not playing, I can't be captain. I can still be a leader here, but it's silly for me to be the captain. Just make Jackson Irvine permanent captain or someone else, right? If he wasn't playing. But I think that does change things. So his form for Levante recently, he's playing La Liga football. La Liga. Come on.
Week in, week out.
It's a big boost.
It's number one.
I think so. I think so.
What's brilliant is we have a genuine push to make him be the number one, which Paul Izzo does provide. And I think it's a toss-up. I think it's great to see Gauchi. He's playing again since John Brady took over at Port Vale. So he's making the case, and he never let Australia down when he's played either. No. So I fancy, personally, it might be Ryan, Izzo, Gauchi, but I think Beach has got a big future ahead of him.
So no question Beach has got a big future. I've seen some inconsistencies in his game. That 6-2 going against MacArthur, he's not ready to be the number one. Will he be the number one in a couple of seasons? Possibly. Looking forward, I just think that word pressure, and for me, Izzo playing in Denmark for Randers, they average 5,000 people every single game. He's not playing in pressure cookers week in, week out. To answer, the Patrick Peach question, okay, Melbourne City don't get big crowds, but playing away at All-Star the other night wasn't a big crowd, but they're big pressure moments in the ACL elite. So even for Beach, I think he's handling a little bit more pressure than someone like an Izzo. But is he a better goalkeeper? I think Izzo's in front of Beach at the moment.
Izzo and Ryan will go.
There we go. So watch that one as it comes along. Hey, the beauty is, so we launch in October. I think every month I've had wild swings in my squad. So all things on a plan. We'll come back in March and be ripping up everything we've said. So we'll see how we go. The best part of that is since we started, Matt Ryan is playing week in, week out in La Liga. Now, onto the defence. We're going to go on the proviso here of 3 centre-backs and wing-backs. Are we aligned on that? Is that how we're going to play?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And he's not going to change. I don't think he's going to change now. The one caveat I've got with that is, and we're going to talk about our wing-backs, I know, but if there are injury concerns there, you have to wonder whether a change in formation is beneficial. I don't think it'll happen, so it's a bit of a moot point. But, for example, Jordy Boss on the left. I think he's the most important player in the Socceroos because I don't see another player who can do that role in his absence. As is Beige, it's weird saying this because he scored that great goal against Japan, great goal for Melbourne City on the weekend. But do you have confidence that he can be creative going forward where he is now in his career? I'm not sure. He'll still do a great job, defensively fine, got the experience, But you want your wing back, considering the formation that is lined up now,
Yeah.
to be creative.
Yeah.
Craig Goodwin is not really in the reckoning right now, but he can't do the job defensively either. Is Callum Elder up to it quality-wise? We just don't know. Massive question mark. Probably not. Kai Rolls is not a wing back. He's a stay-at-home left back, if not a centre back.
Elder?
So if Geordie Boss is not there, I hate talking about this because pondering the concept of Geordie Boss not being in the World Cup for us is you can't do it. He's just that good. There's so much, not just for the team, but for his future to be on that stage. We know what he's capable of. It could be a huge platform for his career. But if he's not there, do you tinker with it a little bit, the formation? I don't think he will, but I think it's worth raising the question.
I had the same thoughts coming here today. I thought, is there a system tweak that he could potentially throw off all the other nations? This is not club football where you get time on the training pitch or get the boys in every day and go, this is what we're going to have as plan B. I don't think the Socceroos have that plan B. It's basically bring people off the bench to try and finish the game. And I think Milo Stojovski said it the other night. It stuck with me. You've got to have starters and you've got to have finishers to the game. I love the idea of Aziz Behich playing for the Socceroos at left back because I think he gives you 90 minutes. Does he give you that forward thrust? Maybe not. Geordie Boss, for me, is he going to play every 4 days and be able to contribute something massive? I'd rather him come off the bench, put him on for the last 20 minutes when people are tired and go, bang, after that drinks break, the second one, get him to go at teams when they're tired. I think the way that, and I agree with you, it's the most important position. It used to be the number 6 for Jedinak to control everything. Now, the strongest position for our Socceroos is a left wing back. Imagine that. So the power we have from that position, you've got to harness it, but you can't overdo it, and you probably can't start with him there every single minute of the game.
So with that in mind, if the formation isn't going to be a change or a bluff, is Behich the one that can go and put 60, 70 minutes as wing back? Wing back at a World Cup. We know how good he was 4 years ago there, but different to playing week in, week out in the A-League. Do you have that?
I think he's the one. And look, he's just so reliable. Whenever you doubt him, he produces something. That's been Aziz Behich for the last 10 years.
He's had a great season.
He's had a very good
2
season.
goals.
You know, that goal against Japan, people have knocked him going forward, and I understand that because it's not his natural game necessarily. But he always delivers something when that question mark is on him and people go, fair enough. And so that hasn't dissipated. So I think he is, part of the squad, and he gives you versatility either as a starter, if you're right, because Boss backing up throughout the tournament. I think he starts the first game, but then can he back up 4 days later with his injury record? Is it better bring him off the bench? It's going to be hot in the United States. All those things come into it. I think if he's fully fit, he's got the ability to play all 3 games. His physique is fantastic, but it's worth pondering that. Then Behich comes into it, and whether you play a stay-at-home left back or a wing back, Aziz will do a job for you, even if he's not the finished article in terms of the wing back role.
Well, in balancing this all out, there's also a utility question as well. So you mentioned Kai Rolls, who might be going as a central defensive option, but you can probably go, look, if a crisis happens and there's injuries, you've got someone that you can move around. Maybe Jason Guerrier falls into the same boat. I'm not sure. I think Popovic would have loved Jake Italiano to have stayed fit.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately, he's had a bad run since he had that move with the Socceroos. But who are the other options then that we can?
Callum Elder, maybe?
He's had a good season. It's hard for us to say from watching it afar, but he keeps consistently performing for what we can see.
Who has played the Socceroos left or right back? Like Kai Rolls is one of those players that a lot of people say, how has he played so many games for the Socceroos? But he's never put a foot wrong. Jason Guerrier is another option there. And I do think in a back 5, it's not playing in a 4 where you get caught out quite often, but you are asked to go up and down. And it's not so much what you can do defensively, because a lot of players can generally defend. You know how to defend across and keep your shape and force them out wide. But it's what you give for that forward thrusts.
Yeah.
And we have that conversation with Miller all the time. He's an athlete. He's playing for Blackburn. He's a dominating force. Has he got forward in the final third and produced something like a Boss? No, he hasn't. But just his attributes alone, I think he's a player that you'd still have to look at playing at a high level. You get him in there in the World Cup.
So for the right, we'll stick with the wing-back discussion now. But I think Lewis Miller is arguably one of the first men on the team sheet the way his season has gone at Blackburn.
For sure. Well, you had it on the rundown there. I'll just throw to it. I mean, it's our best right-back, left-back combination since probably Luke Wilkshire and Scott Chipperfield.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had a better one since, right-back has been a problem position for us.
Last World Cup, 3 different right-backs.
The one before that, Josh Risdon played all three. Now, he did as good a job as possible. He had a decent tournament.
Ivan Fredic got injured.
But Josh Risdon, I mean, a lot of people would forget that. Nothing against Josh.
It's a late run to the tournament.
Late run, and Moik
yeah.
saw him and said, all right, well, and he did a good job.
And left back was a problem. Matty Mackay played there for a number of years, and he wasn't a left back.
Carnes was there, and he was good going forward, but defensively he had issues against the very best. We all remember the Serbia game at the World Cup in 2010. And we've rotated through options there. Aziz has come in and done really well at left back for the last 5-6 years or so. But now we have a supreme option in Geordie Boss and a very reliable one in Lewis Miller. The issue, as we've kind of highlighted, is the depth behind them.
Yeah.
Because you're playing wing backs. That's why. If you're
So
playing
it's on the back four, yeah.
If you're playing a stay-at-home left back or right back, okay, you'd have more confidence in a Geria or a Karacic or a Kai Rolls or whoever doing the job. Left back is wing back is so unique and demanding. Yes, you're right. Defensively, you can get a bit of cover, especially with a back three. But going forward, when you're asking them to provide width, it's hard and it's grueling. And that is the worry. But if those two are fit, you're very much buoyed by it.
And it's not club football, so the way that Popper's set up his stall has been hard to beat. First half, second half, maybe we can get something. We'll be happy if we get to 0-0 in every one of these games in the group stage. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not going to go out there and show our hands and go, let's go and take the game to these guys and win 3. We're not doing that. We're going to sit there, we're going to wait for our moment. That's why you've really got to look about, okay, how do the Socceroos go and score goals? Yeah, we know the front line, but where's that going to come from? Is there any creativity in here? Is there anything on the wide option? For the wide players, it's about finding that 1 or 2 moments in international football where you can go and score. Geordie Boss's goal against the US is a prime example. He got one chance, but scores, we can lock it up. And that's how we're going to play.
That philosophy is really interesting, because then when you look at who then fills out those positions, and we'll get to the central defensive core in a minute, I would have had, when I wrote and I talked to you guys about doing the show, I would have had Sammy Silvera in there as an option, but he's fallen off at Middlesbrough. So for someone who maybe through his club form could have made a case to a coach that maybe wasn't sure on him, unfortunately he might have dropped off the radar, because he's just gone from scoring goals at Borough to being out of the squad, which is a real shame. Frank Karacic moved clubs in the January transfer window to try and make his claim, and being a conservative option, I think that might probably be where the squad lands up as the backup to Miller.
Quite possibly. But there is a bit of a void there. Karacic looms as someone who you could put in that position and he could do that job for you. He's played at a World Cup before. There are a few options there, but there's no one you go, all right, there's my backup left wing back and my backup right wing back. So that's going to be an interesting one for him. But we're lucky the 2 players we have are of serious quality.
From what I've seen with Silvera, and I think he's better in a different position. I've seen Popper use him in different positions. I've seen him being taken off at half-time. That right wing back in Australia against New Zealand, he was just sort of sitting there waiting, not showing us what he's good at.
He's going to struggle to make the squad, Silvera, unfortunately.
So, but I'd love to see him in a more advanced role, and I don't think that we have that position for him.
Not the way the squad's set up either as well. Essentially, we talk about Jordan Boss. Alessandro Ciccati, thank goodness he is fit. How good would it be to have Harry Suter fit as well?
It's a bit of a worry on Suter, and we say that with the caveat of, said the exact same thing at the last World Cup, but he came through and was one of the players of the tournament. Never mind just for Australia. I don't think he played a lead-up game.
And his
first game back after an ACL was that first game of the tournament against France, and he was fantastic and didn't miss a beat after that. So you have faith in that sense, but it's been a long time out. He's had another little setback. The heat in the USA.
Can't do it twice.
It's going to be tricky for him. But if we get him back with Ciccati and Burgess, with those 2 wing backs, and someone like Matty Ryan with his experience, we have a fantastic defensive setup. One of our best in a long, long time. Maybe our best since 2006, really, when you put them all together. Because Ciccati's got the talent, so does Suter and the experience, and Burgess is... Not only is he ultra reliable, but he's the perfect left-sided centre-back, which makes a big difference, because if Boss does bomb on, he can sit in there and he's comfortable, he can get his body shape right because he's left-sided.
How long do we give Harry Suter to be fit? And even if he's on the bubble, given the amount of options that we're going to talk through, do you take him for what he does with his presence in the squad?
He's massive, and I don't think we have this conversation if he's not the quality inside of him, and what we've seen with him not even having games and playing at a World Cup before. I just think 2 times in a row, it's his last game, so it was at 2024 December. It's a long time ago. And you're talking about, coming back, breaking down with something else again. I think he's got to play at least 10 games for himself to feel physically viable, to get himself into a position to play at the World Cup. What it does to the team that's been playing together regularly, so I'm talking about, Burgess, Chikati, Degenek as a 3, he hasn't touched that 3. So he's kind of set on what he wants to do, Popovic. Having said that, Suter scored 11 goals, I think, for the national team as a defender. They're crazy numbers. If he goes into the side, he might actually score a goal for us at the World Cup. Do Burgess, Chikati and Degenek have a chance of scoring from a set piece? Maybe, but I'd back Suter every day of the week. And the other thing is, he provides Matty Ryan with a lot of cover because he's tall. Yeah. So Matty Ryan's not the biggest keeper to come out for things. Suter wins everything. Burgess can do that role. I think you give him 10 games. I think if he's not playing, after the March window, if he's still not playing, I think there's a decision that Popper has to be made. And to be honest, this could be the biggest decision that he has to make. And if he gets it wrong, it could crumble. Not if he plays or he doesn't. If he plays and breaks down, I think that's a big no-no for the squad.
Yeah, if he's not fit, he doesn't go. But I think he goes as long as he's back to full fitness without having played many games. Whether he starts, that's another question. I think this time around, we said it last time, surely he can't start if he doesn't play a lead-up game. But this time around, I think he has to do something.
Yeah.
It's 4 years on. He's a big boy. The body will get a little bit heavier now. Yeah. It's going to be very tough to just go out there and play without something. But I think he will this time around. And if he doesn't play at least a couple lead-up games, I don't see how you can start him. But he proved us wrong once before. He's got to go into the squad just for his presence, if anything. Yeah. I mean, he's the kind of guy that people walk taller around. Yeah. And you need him in that World Cup squad.
Well, to summarise that chat, we've got Boss in, Bajic in, Miller in, Chikati in, Burgess in. We've got Suter in. I think then there's 2 out of Geria, Rolls, Kai Truan.
Yeah.
Can you guys get any closer to that?
I like the idea of Kai Truan getting the move to New York. That's a progressive move. Whether or not he goes and gets game time now, I think he's a number 6. That's his best position. I don't think international football, being a central defender, is going to be where he plies his stride. I'd love to see him play as a number 6. He's got more to offer. As an option out wide or in a back 4, I'm not sure. Experience, every time he's played for Melbourne City, he's looked great. Socceroos, he didn't do anything wrong. He's definitely for the next generation. I just don't... It's a tough one. Geria, if he goes and gets minutes now in Japan, he's got to play minutes. But I think Popovic loves him. I love Jason watching him play. I played with him when I was younger as well. There's a couple there that you're going... Question mark.
Yeah, I think Gary and Rolls can both play wider, so the versatility in the squad it makes a big difference. Hayden Matthews was one I thought was looking pretty good, but he's just not getting regular games for Portsmouth. He's in, then he's out. Maybe he sneaks a final defensive position.
That's a good shout. I actually had him in the October-November version of this that I did. Yeah. Then he dropped off. Popper clearly rates him, brings him in early, so we'll see what happens there. All right, watch this space. Now it's time to move on to the midfield. Now, guys, this is an interesting one because it depends how you want to set it up and how you want to talk about it. I think there's a couple of things we can do. We can take an assumption that Jackson Irvine, fingers crossed on his fitness, he's in, he starts. That's one option. Now tell me how you're going to structure this for this discussion in terms of the other amount of players we have in this central area discussion.
Well, it comes down to how we want to play, Garby, doesn't it?
Not you, Popovic. I'm mentioning Popovic.
Yeah, well, we all know how we want to play. But, Popper's shown time and time again that those midfielders are guys that play and stay. They don't move forward. So you need to have somebody to marshal those guys in. That's why I liked Irvine, because he can get forward, but I think in this system you could play with 2 holders and 1 creative link. I'd love to see him McGree. We talked about this before. We'd love to see Rylan McGree if he continues his form and he's fit and available. Who the other person is the other side of Irvine, but I think Irvine is a massive question mark. I think his fitness, I was reading an article on the weekend that he was struggling at halftime with pain in his left foot still, and he wanted to come off, but the coach said, well, he didn't ask me to come off. I think there's a lot to get through for Jackson Irvine, so you've got to have that second option. Who is it?
Yeah, there's worries over his fitness. I think he's going to need, if he does play, a foil behind him. I can't see Irvine playing at the 6. I don't think he's ever looked fully comfortable in that role. I think he's done jobs in that position.
Yeah.
But the best we've seen of Jackson Irvine has been as the number 8.
Yeah.
His best football just before he got that big injury was when he was getting forward and scoring goals. And that's, when he was at Hull, when he's moved to Germany, he's the best of Jackson Irvine is. And he doesn't look that way because he can be a little bit ungainly in terms of the way that he moves, but he gets in good positions and he can finish, be it with his head or with his foot. So he may not have defence-splitting passes, but he's kind of all action. And so that suits the number 8 position. Therefore, it's Aidan O'Neill behind him and McGree in front of him. I think that is our best midfield 3 as it is now. O'Neill to do the dirty work, Irvine as your number 8, and then McGree in front with the 2 attackers, and obviously you've got your wing backs to provide, the width. So I think that's how it sits right now. But there are concerns over Irvine's fitness, but I think his experience is required considering the lack of it in the national team.
So I think this brings 2 talking points. I think actually on paper, if tournament was tomorrow, that's what you're rolling up with. I don't think there's any question about that. I think for me, McGree, I'm almost putting him just behind Boss and Chukati in that importance level. I think the Socceroos are just simply a better team when he's there. Clearly, Barra as well. Yeah. So let's talk about the 2 options. It's the backup for Irvine, where there's actually a pool of players that putting their hands up that you go, they're you just basically whichever style of player he wants to bring into that, and then that creativity aspect as well. So we'll start with the Irvine question, and I'm going to start it off, boys, by asking about where Cammy Devlin sits in all of that. Because with the caveat that he's had an unbelievable season. I love him in Scotland, but he's injured now.
He doesn't
put a case forward at last.
He hasn't really played him, has he?
He should have 10 more Socceroos caps, Cammy Devlin. I feel really sorry for him. He's done nothing wrong. And pardon the pun, but he would give you the biggest all-heart performance imaginable if you threw him into it. And I reckon the knock on him would be, but he's a little bit shaky in possession. Can he keep it for you well enough? Can he open things up for you well enough? I reckon his defensive desire would counter that.
Yeah.
I think the intangibles with him would be enormous. And I thought he deserved more of a go around the last World Cup. Okay, the team performed fine, so all good. The way in which he's performing for Hart, that's still top of the Scottish Premiership. He's won Player of the Months and plenty Man of the Match awards, and the fans love him. Throw him in there. So that number 6 role.
You've got guys like Teague as well coming back to try and get minutes. I think he's looked undercooked coming back for City. I think he's a player that Popovic likes. Ballard's another one. But I put Cammy Devlin in front of those 2. I think Cammy Devlin, he gives you so much energy. He's organising. And again, he's playing in pressure games week in, week out. Fit. But he hasn't played him up until now. Didn't experiment with him in October, November. He won't experiment with him now because he's not fit. So I don't think Cammy Devlin's going to be a viable option in there. And guys like Yazbek, he's put him in there. He's brought him out. I don't think he set the house on fire. O'Neill, for me, Metcalf, they're the 2 that have been playing. I think he won't change much.
Yeah, I think Metcalf will be in the squad. I think Metcalf's a good option. So if there's an injury there, you could play Irvine as a 6 if something happens to O'Neill. You could play him deeper with Metcalf and McGree in front, but you're lacking a little bit of steel, perhaps. But I think Metcalf will be a big chance for the first 11 as well. He'll be in the squad.
Well, he's actually probably been as ever present as anyone.
Yeah.
And maybe he hasn't been playing as much recently for St. Pauli, so also probably fallen off. We even just mentioned him just at the death there, so he's someone that will be there or thereabouts. In terms of, you mentioned T, who you almost feel like he just has to find some sort of level, and Popper will want to have a look at him.
Yeah.
Like he has. Paul Ocon, Exler, the Sydney FC, has been in recent squads as well. Alexander Robertson tried him, brought him in. Will we see him again? I don't know. But are you saying in all of these calculations that Devlin doesn't make the squad?
I think Devlin, because he's had him in a squad before and hasn't used him, I think that he doesn't pick Cammy Devlin. I think he goes and gets another option there. I love what he's been producing, and he's been playing at the top level. He's got an injury concern now. If he wasn't using him before in these nothing games, why would he then pick him for the World Cup and use a spot for him? 2-0 down, 2-0 up. Are you going to put Cam Devlin in the team? He hasn't done it before in a friendly game. So there's something. It's the same question we'll talk about Segacic later on.
But he's got the runs on the board. Like there was a big break, and that last 2 months with Hearts were at a high level. The injuries come at a really unfortunate time for him. Yeah, there's definitely something that coaches are looking at with Cam Devlin that makes them feel as though he's just short of it at an international level.
Yeah.
But how much more can he do?
Yeah.
How many more options do we have that are better?
Yeah. That's it.
Geez, it'd be stiff if they do go on to win the Scottish Premier League
Yeah.
Championship, even if they come second. And he will be back, all reports, at some point. It might be the March window. It would be stiff if he doesn't make it. But yeah, there are the other options. You mentioned Yazbek, Teague, Robertson, Engsler, Paul O'Connor. Is there a bolter? Is there somewhere out of the blue? Is there a Newcastle Jets player that gets in? Where are we rounding this out? Sorry, and I should have mentioned Conor Metcalf as well.
Yeah, if the Jets aren't represented in this March window, there is something wrong. The best team in the A-League. I know that some of these boys are not ready. You tell me what Max Burgess is doing that Paul Akon Jr. is not doing. Like they're the same, similar level type of player. Max Burgess likes to get forward. He's clean in possession. Maybe Paul Akon has that experience over him in terms of playing with the national team. But Paul Akon Jr. for me is going to be a Socceroo. He's going to be, the next World Cup, you can guarantee that he's going to be in the Socceroos squad. This one, do you take him as an experience? Do you even put him in? Because when he played for the Socceroos, he kept the ball. He's tidy. He never loses it. That's a big thing as a central midfielder. As a DM, don't lose the ball. Can you distribute? And he's a big lad. I think he's going to be there in the future.
He's definitely one for the future. I think this World Cup comes a little too early for him. I think they put him in, he got his taste. I'm not sure he's quite ready for it. Max Burgess is an interesting shout. I mean, I watched him here against Sydney playing defensive midfield. He was the best player in the park. I think when you manage him correctly, it gives you something of a really high standard.
Yeah.
Now, that's putting the armband on him.
Yes.
That's making him the leader of your team. Can he then fit into a squad when you're a backup unlikely to play at his age? He's now over 30. I'm not sure that's the right mix.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth raising as a point, and I'm happy you did.
Worth throwing his name in it. So, to round this part of the discussion out, where are we putting the extra creativity X factor alongside McGree in this discussion? Do we save that for the attacking third? Or do we put it in here? Are we looking like a Rustic?
Yeah, I think Rustic fits in that discussion. I think he does. I think both Metcalf and Rustic are similar. Metcalf can play a little bit deeper. Aiden can't. But I think Rustic goes. And I think he's going to be... I'm not sure he'll definitely be a starter. And there'll have to be a couple players missing out. But Rustic is one that gives you a bit of that creativity in midfield. And I think he's likely to play. I can see an A-League bolter somewhere, whether it's in March, whether it's for the World Cup. Someone like a Lockie Brook.
Yeah,
he's in this discussion here, this position.
Lockie Brook. I mean, it would feel bizarre if Clayton Taylor's in a World Cup squad, but the way he's going for Newcastle, his name's got to be on the board somewhere. Yeah. It's fantastic to watch. No, he's more of a winger. So, is there a position for him in this formation? I'm not sure.
I think.
I don't know if there is, but he's having a fantastic campaign.
A lot of people talk about Anthony Caceres getting back into the fold, and every game he performs. We know about his goal scoring. He doesn't really score or assist, but he's always performing. But Lockie Brook, for me, we just mentioned him. I think he's a player that has done everything right, and he looks like, when you see him playing live, he's a player you go, if I'm playing against him, I can't get the ball. And he's just toying with the opposition. I think he's a great option, not even just off the bench, but again, he's got to test him in this March window, what Papa does. I think you take a Lockie Brook over an Anthony Caceres for this World Cup.
I've got to say, one of my most enjoyable interviews since we started Football 360 is with Lockie Brook.
Yeah.
Before the A-League season started, thoughtful, intelligent, deep thinker, very focused on what his goal was this year. And at a point that no one was talking about him in the picture, he said, I'm coming back because I want to make a Socceroos run.
Yeah.
He's lived up to that. He's been brilliant. So that's what we love about these talking points heading into it. Whether it's too late, time will tell.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the attack in a moment. We're calling it there. Have we come to a consensus?
I think we've discussed all the options. I think we've nailed our first three.
Did we get Max Ballard in?
I said
Ballard's
Max Ballard.
Is
he in?
I think... Oh, that's a tough one.
Is he the Irvine counter?
Hey, I'll throw up one that we haven't heard yet for a while. Does Josh Nisbet name get a mention? He scored the other day. Let's not forget what he did for the Mariners.
Yeah.
Do I think he makes the final squad? Probably not. But if we're talking about these options, I think Josh Nisbet is worth a mention. He's now back playing over in Europe. He's getting those regular minutes. He scored the other day. I'd like to see him discussed, considering what he can provide as well.
See it as discussed. He's on the list. He's on the long list of 130 players. Now, moving on to the attack, because this is where it does get a bit interesting, because you could look at it and go, where are the wingers? Where's the pace? We're going to have to work out the way to fit this into the system. But we actually know right now we've got Boss and Miller, who we've said are the wing backs. They're the ones bombing up and down. So it's got to fit into that. Let's try to keep it simple and start with the nines. Let's start with the nines, because we've started this show talking about Mo Toure. Mo Toure starts up front for Australia at the World Cup. Nothing more to discuss there, right? But like in all squads, you need backup and you need variety. So how many go in a 26-man squad, and who are they?
Look, it's a tough question, because there's a million names we can put in here that are playing week in, week out in the A-League scoring goals. It's a different kettle of fish going into the World Cup. I think guys like Zach Sapsford and Segacic are those names we want to discuss, and they are producing at the highest level in the UK. Well, not the highest level, but they're close enough. And the thing that worries me about this next window in March is he going to experiment at all? Because we know that Erik Kunda's played with Toure, and it has actually produced goals in terms of playing against Canada, USA. They've got the way that they can move on that counter attack or going through. Give the ball to Erik Kunda, he can almost go and create something. Can a Zach Sapsford or a Segacic go and beat 3 or 4 players and cut back? I'm not sure they can. Playing a different system, I think Sapsford is more of a winger, and you want Segacic playing in behind. And we're talking about playing with 2 nines, Garby. I think you're going to have a Mo Toure, and Erik Kunda for me has to play.
Yeah, I think that's how it sits right now, Toure and Erik Kunda. Erik Kunda doesn't start and play the full 90 in all the games. That just won't happen. No. So you're going to have other options. I don't think he starts all 3 games, really. So who else are the options? Segacic, it's bizarre that he hasn't come on yet for Australia. It really is. I'm not sure what's happened there, but something has. So they're clearly making him earn it. You'd like to see him in this March window come through and start a game. Not just come off the bench, start a game, because he is the perfect foil for that Erik Kunda role.
Yeah.
And they could rotate throughout a tournament, the 2 of them, alongside of Mo Toure.
So I'm trying to do the maths to get Segacic into the squad, and I look at it and I go, is it probably at the expense, or it's a one of them, him or Martin Boyle?
Yeah, Boyle's struggling. It's just a shame, because when we first recruited him, let's be honest, he was a difference maker. Yes. He had that pace asset, which was something we were lacking at the time. But he just kept getting these severe injuries. Missed 2 tournaments, an Asian Cup and a World Cup through him.
Right to the death on both.
And then when your pace is your number 1 asset and you get those knee injuries, it just hits you badly. And he doesn't seem to have that blistering pace anymore, but he's still got experience. He's still got a bit of guile. He'll be in the mix, but I think there's others that have probably gone ahead of him. So you've got to have a backup for Toure.
Yeah,
that's going to be an interesting one. Mitch Duke is making a really good run of it. So he's come back to the A-League in order to put himself in the shop window for it. And he's done nothing wrong, scoring really good goals. People bash Mitch Duke, but I think it's incredibly unfair. I mean, do they forget so quickly that he scored against Tunisia at a World Cup? Like, Josh Kennedy was hailed as Socceroos royalty for what he did at a World Cup, and rightfully so. Yeah, Mitch Duke got panned. Yeah. I don't know why. I'm not sure what the issue is. No one's saying he's Mark Viduka. No one ever said that.
Yeah, he scored at the World Cup.
He did not only did he score, he had a bloody good tournament.
Yeah.
He was the target man, battering ram, elbows out, creating space for others. Excellent job the whole way through. Now, Kate's a little bit older, hasn't played as much football, but he's come back, he's scoring goals. We don't have a whole lot of options. We don't have a whole lot of experience. I think he's giving himself a really good shot of being in that squad as someone who provides something different and can be the backup for Mo Toure.
Those 2 players, I think Mitch Duke, D'Agostino, they've come back, right, to look for game time. It's always a question mark. It's always a worry. Mitch Duke came back for different reasons, I think, in terms of maybe not getting game time in Japan. It was going to slow down or, whatever. So Duke's doing the business. D'Agostino scored for Brisbane. I think the move to Brisbane has been the wrong one. I think after this, it has died down that he scored. He looks as though he has a little niggle already. His body's not up to scratch, so he's fighting against time to get through. You talked about variety, and I want to go there. You know where I'm going to go here.
Hit us.
I want to see Harry Sawyer in this camp. I want to see him in this March window never starting a game,
Imagine 2 MacArthur strikers in the World Cup.
finishing a game. Because you tell me what weapon we have in the last 15 minutes of a game when we're chasing the game 1-0, 2-0, and another team like Paraguay sit back and say, break us down, Australia. Are we breaking them down, or are we going to go long into the box and allow Sawyer to go bang, bang, bang? Can Duke do that job? Sure. Can Sawyer do it better? I think he can. I think he can go in the box and win more headers, get bits and pieces, long throws, go direct. He's the option. You talk about variety, having a weapon, 26 people in the squad. I'd be putting someone like him.
I'm glad you brought it up, because there's just a part of me that thinks we could sit here for hours and there'll still be someone that Popovic picks that we haven't thought of.
Of course there will
and
be.
that's where I want to
I hope so.
throw a red herring in there, because I think there is one. The other bit on variety is probably similar to Toure in his extent, but is it 3 strikers? Like, you think they take 3 strikers, 3 number. Zach Sapp is not necessarily an out-and-out number 9, but does his... So he scored against Rangers, he scored against Celtic. What are we looking for from someone to come in to get us goals in this tournament? I run through, you mentioned D'Agostino, Apostolos Stamatopoulos has come back to Sydney FC, Denny Erik has been called up during this window. I think Brandon Brella's ruled himself probably out through form.
Yeah.
You've got Al-Hassan Touré's been called up, Adam Taggart's been called up. Cassini Yegi was the man at the start of the Popovic
I don't think
window.
Yegi did anything wrong. I always liked him, but he's not playing enough, right?
So that's the list I can look at.
I think Caputo's got a
Max
chance.
Caputo didn't
I
have
think Max
him on it.
Caputo's scoring.
Yeah, he's scoring.
Playing week in, week out. He's young, but he's got the build. I think Caputo's got to be in the discussion. I think Sapsford certainly is, because he can play both attacking positions. If you had to play him as the main number 9, all right, you'd say question marks over his physicality, but he's got the pace to stretch. He's been playing in Scotland, so he's used to it, but he can also play as that second foil.
So which has been, so I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and that he said he's actually gone on there and been asked to evolve his role to play a little bit more with those channel runs, to try and where he might come inside a little bit more, where he's not leading the line like Toure. So that was interesting as well.
Yeah, he needs a big finish to the season though, because he hasn't been in a squad before. Now, if he makes it for March, then he's right in there. If he doesn't, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But he's certainly in the mix. Do we put a line through Daniel Arzani?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw, while we're on that, so I think we haven't agreed on anything, because you've gone Duke, you've gone Sawyer. So a striker of that type will be in there.
Yeah, okay.
You mentioned it a bit earlier. Unfortunately, Craig Goodwin's late run is going to be too late.
Yeah.
Nicholas Milanovic,
Not playing.
no. Marco Till. These are players who've been around the traps. They're very Arzani kind of, do we give him a chance?
Yeah.
Jet Drews come through the Aussie Roos, probably a bit late. Garan Qual, I was hoping he was going to make more of a case,
What a
but
shame.
not to be. Nishan Velupalai.
Yeah.
Papa loves Nishan Velupalai. He loves Daniel Arzani.
Who does he love more, Arzani or Velupalai?
Yeah.
If you had to bet.
Well, Arzani got picked before he'd even been playing in Hungary, really.
Yes.
So
Either of those two players are coming off the bench for the last 20 minutes because they don't play with width. So Velupe is not going to play through the middle.
Yeah.
Arzani's not playing. Well, he can possibly play through the middle. I would, if Velupe keeps playing the way he is, he looks as though he's starting to make a case now. Arzani's a little bit further behind him. I'd love to see Nish go to the World Cup and get on off the bench.
I think he rates Arzani slightly higher. I think his man management with Arzani has been really interesting.
Yeah.
It's been a great watch. He knows him well, so he's doing it from a place of serious credibility on the matter. He gave him that big whack, which, took everyone by surprise. Yeah. But he did it because he's like, all right, well, this is the kid's last shot, I've got to put it up him.
Yeah.
And Arzani responded well. Then he wasn't playing and he called him in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, well, I've given him the whack, now I'm giving you the carrot.
Yeah.
So he clearly likes him enough that he is thinking so deeply about the player. But he's got to have a good run at it now at City. Hopefully he comes into the starting 11 now after a couple of weeks on the bench and training and getting his fitness back up.
Marcus
and
Eunice
starts.
is there. He's doing ever so well.
But if he has a big... Arzani's the kind of guy that if he has a big month, he could get in. Because we don't have many players like him.
No.
Yeah, he's only 27. Yeah. So a big 4 to 6 weeks and he can get in that squad. I think Arzani's still in the mix. So I don't think we can rule him out.
I've got one more just to throw in before we try and make some sense of that last 5 minutes. But another interview we did at Football 360, we spoke to Christian Paartalu at the back end of last year. And this is a March question, because it's not going to happen before the World Cup. Now, all the media speculation has always been, he said no, he said no, he said no. He does this interview. I listened to the interview. I didn't do it. Adriano Del Monte did it. And I said, he just opened the door.
The door has been open
He's
for a
just
while.
opened the door again.
I know for a fact the door's been open for a while. He was having conversations directly with Graham for a period of time. Now, what's gone on in terms of him not committing, I don't know. I think when that door became open, he then wasn't playing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, how can you pick him now? Yeah.
Socceroos are qualified. Maybe that
I think the door's open. I think if he was called right now, he would commit to playing for Australia.
From this
But
competition,
as whether he's
squad,
up to the quality of right, I haven't seen enough of him.
but also from the composition of the squad we've spoken about, is he someone that we should be mentioning, or would you call him up in March? Just test it one last time. We go, we need this, and we're going to see if he's going to come.
Well, what we want and what Tony Popovic is going to do is two different things, isn't it? I mean, I would love to see him throw a couple in the camp, but what's the point? You may as well go strongest. You've got to get Matty Ryan back in playing the game. You've got to have Irvine if he's fit. You've got to have these guys getting the feel for it again. You can't have a year off from international football. It's going to be full strength, man.
Yeah. See, 4 years ago, when this discussion happened around Valpato, it was just call him up to lock him in. Like,
Yeah.
he was going to add something to the squad, no doubt, but it was like, we can carry him, but make him an Australian, play him at the World Cup, and he's tied to us. Gave him the chance. I mean, it was sometimes we were just forcing him.
No,
Go to a World Cup.
Yeah.
But he said no. You've got to earn it to a point as well. He doesn't have that same, the same clout, Valpato now. He's got to earn it.
Yeah.
All right, mate, you had your chance. You said no. Well, you're not necessarily demanding selection anymore. Antonio Arena's demanding it more than Valpato is at the moment.
Yeah.
But is he a bit young to force his hand? Maybe. You'd question whether forcing him when he's in this position of uncertainty, it's so young, just turned 17, is the right move. But I'd love to see Popper call him up and say, come be a part of it, mate, experience it.
Yeah.
Even just say to him, mate, I'm not going to play you, but I just want you around it. Come have a look at what it's like.
See if you like it.
Have a look at what it's like. I reckon you might like it and say, I want to play for Australia. That's what we're offering you. That I would like to see happen.
So we've been thinking a lot here about June. But actually, for March, that's a really interesting talking point. Would you be calling up Antonio Arena in March?
It's a tough one. Like Garb said, he's young. He's just starting his career, but he's playing at the highest level in Italy. So it's like, I think that there's a case that you bring him in, and because we always talk about this with young players, it's like, bring them in, cap them so they don't get to make a decision later. If you want to play for Australia, you've got to earn it. It's not about earning it as well, it's about wanting it. And I think that if at that age, if he has a possibility of playing for Italy, then he might be thinking in the back of his head, I've been there, this is giving me the chance, I'm around it, I don't feel Australian, because you do feel like that when you're in another country and you've got background. I don't think he'll call him up.
I don't think he will, but I think the problem would be there's going to be so much media attention if I do. Is that going to unsettle the kid?
And the team.
And the team. But you can't let that determine your decisions as well. In an ideal world, I think you would bring him in and say to him, listen, mate, you don't get locked away anyway, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Just come experience it, as we said before.
Yeah.
Come see what it's all about. I think quality-wise, he deserves to be in the mix. I mean,
why not?
He's scoring, Roma's using him, like, he deserves to be in the mix. I would like to see us do that, but I don't think they will because of those other factors, which I think are reasonable ones.
Yeah,
it could be unsettling for him and the squad because it all becomes about a 17-year-old who might not make the final squad, and it'll be confronting, I think, for all. But it's an interesting talking point.
So, in conclusion, we've got Mohamed Toure, lock. Nestor Irankunda, lock. I get the sense that a lot of after that is up for grabs. We didn't agree on the physical striker, Duke or Sawyer or otherwise. There is going to be another striker. So who is going to make that run?
Caputo's in the mix.
So you've gone with, keep an eye on Caputo, keep an eye on Sapchuk, keep an eye on D'Agostino, keep an eye on Yengi, new environment. We'll see how we go there. And you probably can then potentially sneak a Segetic in.
Yeah.
You can probably sneak a Segetic in at that rate too. I've lost count, so if you're watching carefully, listening carefully,
I think Segetic has
has
to force his way in eventually. It doesn't make sense for him to not get a look in March.
Yeah.
And then make it.
If he doesn't, there's something really wrong.
Then there's been something behind the scenes that is just gone awry.
Okay, so to conclude, I think we're going to be quite close to a unanimous first 11, actually. We'll run through that now.
Erik might have the whole MacArthur side.
He even mentioned
Go on the Bulls!
Mile Stajovski a bit earlier got us up as well in the shot.
They're paying me a little bit.
Matt Ryan in goal.
Yeah.
Centre backs, Chukati, Burgess, Deganek. In reality, maybe Suter makes a late run.
I think it's Suter. I'm backing Harry Suter to get fit and play. So it's Suter, Chikati, Burgess for me.
Miller, Boss.
Yeah.
O'Neill, Irvine, McGree.
That's my three.
At this point in time,
Toure, Erik Kunda.
I think that's our 11 for the first game of the World Cup.
if everyone's fit, fire, and that's got to be it. I'd still love to see Aziz Behich in that side, but you can't lose Geordie Boss's possibility of him going and winning us the game. But also, Behich has won games for Australia from scoring as well. But I think you with your heart on your head on your heart, you've got to pick a player that can go and be progressive in the most important position in that system, the wing back. Right side's not going to do it.
Yes.
Left's going to do it.
Boys, anything else to add? I've had a great time.
Yeah.
Be great, mate. It's just hugely exciting. The last thing I want to add is it's a squad full of talent. Experience is an issue. That is my concern. Experience and how creative we can be, which has been a question mark we've had since Popper's come in. And it's always been the question mark on Popper. Let's be honest, his teams are always strong. The defensive acumen is always of a very high level. But even the Wanderers at their very best were not the most expressive side. So how we find a way to score goals, considering that, is going to be a big question mark. Toure, Irankunda, McGree in behind, at their best, up and going, there's enough there. Boss on the left. There is enough there. But the talent to overcome whatever system deficiencies there might be in terms of the way we combine. But that's one question mark. And then experience. So if you look at it now, we've got, based on that first 11, yet Ryan, Suter, Irvine is your real and McGree to an extent.
Yeah.
Ryan, fine, okay. Suter, Irvine, McGree, there are injury concerns on all three.
Yeah.
So, all things being equal, okay, you've got enough experience, but if one or two are missing, that's a real worry going into a World Cup.
What I worry about, you just jogged my memory, playing against the US, right? They're going to be completely fired up. They're going to try and get under our skin. Someone like Irankunda hasn't had that experience, and we saw him get sent off the other day for not having his composure. We want to see an Australia that goes and competes, but being at that level, he can't get in a situation where he's letting the team or the country down. And I worry slightly for Nesteri in terms of he's really got to be fortified in his mindset. And that might even stop him from starting games.
I think we're getting in the weeds, Garby, I think, over the next few months. So I think that's a really good thing to watch. And we're going to learn a lot through March, what goes on.
I just want to know, as someone who's played world football, do you think it would be going around wherever we play from Europe, USA, Paraguay camps, the video of Irankunda from the other day and in Australia and saying, get under the sky skin, look what he's done. Would they be aware of it and they'd be trying to target?
Look at the thing we saw in the US, how they've covered and they've said that Adrian Segacic should be their player to watch out for. So the detail that they're going in the media, forget what the teams are doing. If I know there's a young kid, I don't have to see it on TV or be told. I'm going to go there and start pinching him or kicking him or off the ball. You can't do too much these days, but for sure, he's got a history. It's not once, it's not twice, it's a couple of times now.
Good point.
I'm not saying it's a weak point for us, but it could be a thing in Popper's head going, you know what, World Cup, let's bring him off the bench here. So that might tweak everything
And
again.
just one thing, clearly he is our first 11 player in terms of talent, what he can do for us. But you mentioned maybe having a Geordie Boss as a finisher.
Yeah.
If Nestori is the finisher, who's in that role? Have we said someone in this whole selection that we go, well, that's the obvious one to start with?
I think Segacic, but he hasn't played yet, so it's an odd thing to discuss. But I think Segacic would be the player.
I'd love to see it. He hasn't done it yet. He's going to surprise us in the March window. Segacic, the thing that worries me is the movement that way.
Yeah.
You know, Irankunda also, but he's had to learn that part of his game. And both players are playing in the championship. They would have been learning a hell of a lot since we've seen a lot of them. International football becomes a lot about that more than what you can do there.
Might lose our listeners at this point if I say someone that I'm not in the squad, but it's almost like Valup. That's where you can see a Popovic player starting in that role of Valup.
Have we fully put a line through Matt Leckie?
Yes.
I think so. I don't think he's played enough. But he could be that player, all things being equal, but the injuries have just piled up.
Too many injuries.
6 months ago, I actually thought, you know what, you have to get one of Leckie Goodwin or Duke, or at least one of them into the squad again.
It's amazing what he's done for the country, and that your goal at the score of the World Cup never be forgotten. But I just think that injuries too much for you.
Yeah.
Boys, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
Great
mate.
fun.
Mate.
Awesome. We've got
Cheers,
4
Garb.
months to do this.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching. If you're listening at home, hope you enjoyed all these installments of our Socceroos World Cup watch. Beauty is, it's only February, so we've got a lot more of them to come. Stay tuned, of course, to football360.com.au every single day, because if anything happens to these guys, or they score a great goal, or there's something to talk about, you can rest assured we will. Until next time, enjoy your football.